Rick Bucher's been covering the NBA since '93, and he's been covering these Warriors for a long time. So let's just move a few steps ahead. Forget talking game for a second.
Okay.
So last night, Steph is literally the best Warrior on the floor times 8. Wiggins is a little meek, missed a lot of open looks.
Yep.
Klay was awful. Looney can't score.
Yep.
They don't like Poole. Either do I. I thought Peyton was about as good a teammate as he had. I like Moody more than Kerr does. He's now finally playing him. I like him. I think I kind of know what I get. He's athletic. Yep. He works hard. He's a little physical.
Yep.
Okay. So let's say this thing dovetails and they win the next game, then they lose, they're done.
Yeah.
They're not going to sit there and reboot it. We talked about this. You're not going to get much for Klay on the market. I think you could get something for Poole and you could get something for Wiggins, 2 offensive players. Here's my question. Who would they move if they had to choose? The one big name they would move.
If they could get off of Poole's contract at this point, I have to believe that they would.
Okay, but would they potentially? I mean, Klay has struggled.
Yes.
Would they move off Klay?
And Klay wants to get paid.
And there's no way you can pay him after this series.
No. I mean, this is the big issue with the team right now, is that they are living in the past. Klay Thompson is trying to recapture who he was. And when he was what he was before the injuries, he could take some crazy shots.
And he was also a better defender.
Well, that was the difference, is that if he missed one of those crazy shots, he could get you a stop at the other end. He wasn't going to give it up. They don't realize, and I thought that they would have learned this by now, especially after the Sacramento series, that their margin of error is not the same.
It's not.
They have to play closer to the vest. And that's for everybody. And yet I still see, look, they only had, I think, 16 turnovers last night. But at least a half dozen of them were of the careless type. I'm not, and by the way, shout out to the LA Fire Department. One of their members came up to me at the game last night and said, let Colin know that his Lakers takes are in cinders right now. I mean, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but wanted to say hello. I would have thought that they've learned who they are at this point. And I don't look. The Lakers are taking advantage of the Warriors' mistakes. You cannot convince me that the Warriors, if they played more efficiently, are not the better team. But at this point, they haven't played that way, and I'm just wondering whether they simply cannot learn the lesson that they are not the old Warriors, that they have to play a different way.
Joe Lacob has not cared about the salary tax. He's burst through it multiple times, but losing can change a billionaire's perspective.
And with the new rules coming in, and having conversations with GMs right now about this, they can't keep everybody. Because under the new CBA, and I don't have all the ins and outs of it, but essentially you just don't have the wherewithal to just liberally pay everyone. So they're going to, whether it's Draymond, whether it's Klay, they're going to have to lose somebody.
Okay, but I can argue between Draymond's defense and his assists. I could keep him. I can argue he's a tough guy. I could argue Wiggins' athletic and twitchiness in the wing is valuable. I cannot pay Klay. There's no way. I don't care about the Splash Brothers. It's over. Nobody even uses that anymore.
This is the problem that Steve Kerr has, and he ran into it last night.
He's trying to be loyal.
Exactly. And you can't fault him as a human being.
Yeah.
Because all of the great performances that Klay gave you by not having a conscience. And then 2 years of fighting back, going through what he did to be able to play again and helping you win a championship last year. You know who I can see it with Steve.
You know who they need?
Who?
Jaylen Brown. That's the perfect player. A defender at the 2 who's super
That's
twitchy.
Not a bad call at all.
That's who they need.
That's not a bad call.
What could you give Boston? If Boston loses and they say, okay, we're done running back Tatum, Marcus Smart, and you say, we'll give you Wiggins, we'll give you Jordan Poole. I'm just saying, if Boston does not get to a final or does and gets blown out by Denver, what they need is Jaylen Brown, that kind of player who's an athlete, who's an alpha, but has played with a star, so he'll be respectful. Yeah. He doesn't run over Tatum or run over Steph. He totally understands. He's a great 2. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad idea. And I do feel like Jaylen Brown at this point is being held back by Jason Tatum being regarded as the best player on that team, as the alpha. And he has the game, he doesn't have the mentality.
Right.
And Jaylen Brown does. And that, when you're at cross purposes like that, I don't know that you ever really solve that well enough to win a championship.
Do you think the Warriors can come back and win the series?
I saw you put this up. I'm walking into the building, and I see the line. Rick's going to explain how the Warriors can come back from 3-1. And I'm like, I didn't sign up for that.
I didn't do that. That's the staff.
I don't believe that they will.
They can get to a Game 7.
Well, if they get to a Game 7, they win.
So you think they win the next one?
I think they win the next one, and I think they lose Game 6 in L.A. But I have said from the beginning, and I will hold to this, the Warriors have decided every game. I know there's Lakers fans out there, and Darvin Ham deserves a ton of respect for pulling the right strings. But the Warriors have done this to themselves. I was in the building last night. That crowd was nervous all the way through. And then when it was like, oh my gosh, the Warriors are handing it to us. Let's take this. Lonnie Walker, where'd you come from? Then they got excited. And I don't blame them. This Lakers team is doing far more than I expected them to do. But I did not expect, after the Kings series, I just thought the Warriors have learned their lesson.
Yeah, they figured it out.
You can't be throwing the ball around. You can't. Dante DiVincenzo, like inbounding the ball to Steph. And they just can't afford those mistakes. And I would think that they would have learned that, and they have not. So it's really hard to predict at this point. You cannot tell me that the Warriors are not the better team, but they have not played like it.
Yeah. It's when I watch, I put up a top 10 list earlier, and my list was.
You've already scratched it?
No. The 10 best players today in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And people push back on, what about Devin Booker? And my thing is, okay, I can think two things at once. He's on an all-time heater, and it's not sustainable. He had his best year ever this year and shot 49% from the floor. I don't think he's going to shoot 63% for the rest of the playoffs.
No, he's not. But you are not giving him credit for being a completely different Devin Booker.
Well, he doesn't play defense still.
He does more than he ever has. He's giving you effort there. I would watch more closely on that. I feel as if he's. Before, it was, I'm just going to try to outscore you. And if you double me, I'm going to try to beat the double team. You can't stop me. That was his whole attitude.
Do you have see, I think Denver's going to win the next two games and win the series. I think Phoenix doesn't have enough players.
I think it goes 7.
Wow, you do.
I do, and the only chance that I give the Nuggets is that they have home court advantage and that KD and Devin are playing big minutes and you got to play in altitude. That's the only reason.
Well, by the way, a lot of people think that's the Lakers' problem. If Denver wins this thing quickly, and the Lakers go 6 or 7 and then turn around the next day and fly to Denver, I mean, LeBron looks gassed now.
Yeah. But that to me is the only way that Denver, I like the Lakers against Denver overall. I don't like them against Phoenix. Wow. The way Phoenix is playing.
Phoenix has no bench.
Monty
Williams said, I'm just going to play guys who can shoot.
Yeah, and it's worked. I mean, because he wasn't doing that earlier.
That's right.
Jock Landale's giving them some good minute.
He is. Hey, J-Mac, you're Jock Landale.
And DeAndre Ayton is...
he is what he is.
Were you not listening? J-Mac looked up like, what?
No, Monty Williams gets his guys to play. Like, he's bringing these guys off the bench, and they're doing the best of what they do.
And DeAndre Ayton, I think, athletically is a better matchup for Anthony Davis. Is going to minimize what Anthony Davis is able to do. And then you've got, the one matchup is LeBron's going to try to back down and beat up whoever, the same as he's doing with the Warriors.
Okay, so I suggested this last night, and I didn't read the responses, but I can imagine they came at me hard.
Yeah.
I said, okay, if you're basically what's happened in the Knicks is what I thought would happen in the Knicks in the first round, which is a very low offensive ceiling. Yep. Julius Randle on a great team is a 4. On a good playoff team is probably a 3. But he's
coming off the bench.
he's an effort guy. Mm-hmm. Effort meets a ceiling in the playoffs. Everybody's playing hard. So this team is a star, their offense away. I think they would also they could call Golden State and say, we'll take Wiggins. We need a number 2 scorer. And they would say, Warriors, give us Mitchell Robinson. Give us somebody that can score any offense on the front court.
Yeah.
So I look at the Knicks and I think to myself, they could call. I think the Celtics could call if they lose the Warriors. I think the Knicks could call the Warriors. I look at New York and I think to myself, I understood signing Julius Randle. I got it. He kind of brought the franchise, the inertia.
Yeah.
But it's time. You got enough guys who play hard with low ceilings.
Well, he's not good enough to be your second star on a team.
And I think
that's
a 4 on a great team.
I also, to your point, though, it's a Tom Thibodeau effort team, which is going to get you through the regular season and look good because you're going to play hard every night.
Yeah.
And maybe around, but not beyond that. And I don't really get the sense that they're a very high IQ basketball team. And they're matched up against, look, Miami. I mean, Miami athletically shouldn't be able to match them. Size-wise, they're undersized. But they are a smart team, and they execute everything. And so they just get more out of their offense. Jimmy Butler's not going by anybody. They get so much off of execution that the Knicks do not get. Yeah. It's the difference between Eric Spoelstra and Tom Thibodeau in this series, to me, is the difference in the series.
Yeah. I want to pivot back one more time. If I said make a prediction,
yes,
Warriors lose to the Lakers, they make one major offseason move. Rick Bucher, it will be. We don't throw up change-ups on this show. Only 98-mile-an-hour heat on the hands. What would the big move be? Look at J-Max all engaged on this.
Yeah, it would. To your point, this is. I preface this by saying I have not checked to see what the market value of Klay Thompson is.
Okay.
But that would be the move. You have to get off of Klay, and you have to find another two-way player, a big two-way guard to put next.
What about another
to Steph?
Two-way wing? Because Gary Payton.
Well, that's what I mean.
Moody and Gary Payton can play a little defense.
Two or three.
I would go get a 3 next to Wiggins, who can give you a little scoring.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of talk about Draymond being moved.
They're not going to move him.
The problem is he is the playmaker on that team. He allows Steph to play off the ball, and I don't know that you find another Draymond Green. So it would be by default, it would be Klay, but that's going to be so hard emotionally, psychologically for the Warriors to do because of Klay's story. But if you look at him honestly right now, he's just not carrying the freight. And the idea that he wants to get paid a max deal
You'd probably have to give up Kuminga. You'd probably have to go Klay and Kuminga to get who you wanted. Because somebody just wouldn't want old Klay. They'd want a young, twitchy.
Sure. And based on the fact that they're not playing Kuminga at all right now.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a GM and you said take Klay, I'd say, okay, I get Kuminga and a draft pick.
This is what I wonder if there's a mistake that the Warriors made is that they didn't start cultivating Moses Moody sooner.
I like him.
I said from the beginning I thought that he fit better with this team than Jonathan Kuminga because he can play a specific role. He can space the floor. He can defend. He's a big wing. Jonathan just doesn't fit. Jonathan and James Wiseman, to be honest with you.
They don't fit.
They don't fit with the way the Warriors play. And so they got stuck drafting guys for their future and trying to make their present work. And I just don't know that you can ever make it work when you have one foot in two different camps.
All right, Bukes, good stuff.
Thanks.
Rick Bucher.
Good to see you, J-Mac.
Rick, can I ask something real quick?
You absolutely.
Everybody
I've been waiting.
Every Warrior wants to move off Jordan Poole. Just explain to Warriors fans that his value is at rock bottom, and the Warriors just cannot give him up at this point.
You can't because when Steph, I actually, and Poole drives me nuts. I'd move off Klay and Kuminga. You do it when Steph hits in the regular season. Who's going to score? It's not Payton or Moody. I think you keep Poole.
And Curry misses a lot of games.
That's right.
He's 35 years old.
I can move off Kuminga and Klay tomorrow.
This is my great issue with Jordan, and it's based on what he said last night after the game, is I'm just not getting the opportunity.
No, he is too.
In so many words.
He's blowing it.
You're sure
he's
he
getting
said
the
that?
opportunity.
100%. So give me some accountability.
That's right.
Let's look in the mirror and go, I got to defend better, and I got to make better selections on my shots, and I need to organize us. And he hasn't done any of that, and that's why he's not playing.